The second dimension of empowerment that I want to cover is personal consequence. And as we said, the way that we would define this is that it's having an understanding of how your work impacts the project or your team. So think about it for a second. When you come into a job and you're asked to do a specific project, a lot of times it's kind of in the middle and we don't really understand, who was doing the work before us and who was doing it after us. And the way that I like to frame this is actually a game that I played as a kid. I still play it today with my kids, and that's Tumbling Tower. Right? Because in Tumbling Tower, you've got all these blocks, they're stacked up on each other, and most of the time you're in competition. And so when you take a block out, you're trying to take a block out that's going to make it harder for the next person, right? Because you want to win the game. And so you're looking for the block, maybe it's on the side, you're going to leave one block in the middle, you're thinking about how am I going to make this really hard for the next person. And it's interesting because that's how we play Tumbling Tower. But if we were to think about our organization, and we were to think about kind of how to flip that. If we were to be playing Tumbling Tower as a team, and our goal was to get it as tall as we could without knocking it over, all of a sudden every block that I pull is going to be about the next person and being like, okay, I've got to get this block out so that the next person can have a shot. And more importantly, maybe we know, that the next person has got kind of shaky hands, right? And so we're going to be thinking about their skills and abilities and how can I make this as easy for them as possible. Now, in business, a lot of times we never think of that, right? We think about ourselves in kind of a bubble in terms of like, I'm doing this project and then I'm going to hand it off to so-and-so and then they hand it off down the line. And so we don't think about how the work that I do impacts the next person, or how the person before me, how it impacts me. And so, when we think about this kind of Tumbling Tower analogy, that's the kind of mentality we want to get. We want people to see the end goal and think about how my project impacts the next person who impacts the next person. And so that is the goal with personal consequence and why it's such a big part of empowerment. So again, some of the things that we can do to enhance our understanding of personal consequence. The first one is invite seasonal employees to company-wide meetings. This is one that I've seen work in a lot of different organizations. I did a fair amount of work in the IT industry, and one of the interesting things that I found is that this was a major challenge in IT. That you could bring on seasonal help for specific times. When you're bringing on a whole new number of machines or you're adding a new software. And it was really challenging because these people would come in, they didn't have relationships, they didn't know kind of the history behind why we're making a software change. And so, what they found is that by bringing them to these company-wide meetings, it helped these seasonal or these temporary workers to understand why they were doing what they were doing. And so this could increase personal consequence because now I see that so-and-so has a face, right? And that's somebody that I'm doing work that's going to, kind of impact the way that they're able to do their job. And so that idea of inviting people to company-wide meetings is really a powerful one in terms of being able to strengthen that personal consequence. The second one is face-to-face or Skype meetings with each employee. You can imagine as a seasonal employee taking a job and coming to an organization maybe to get, specific tools that you need to accomplish your task and not knowing a soul, and how you're not going to feel comfortable to ask for help. You're not going to feel comfortable to ask for, direction if you need it. You're just going to want to go do it on your own. And one of the things that these face-to-face or Skype meetings with each new seasonal employee can do is it helps them to know who they can go to. And it helps them to start building that relationship of trust so that I can turn to somebody and say, okay, what do I need to do? But from the personal consequence standpoint, now I also have somebody in mind when I'm doing my job. I'll give you an example from an accounting firm, where you've got somebody who's working with a client and they're doing some work with that client and they don't answer emails for a few days. Well, the person that's going to get an email next, right, is probably a receptionist or probably an administrative assistant. But if I know that administrative assistant really well, I know what they look like, I know who they are, now I'm thinking, okay, I need to make sure I take care of my things because I don't want to burden that person that I know, right? And so having those face-to-face and Skype meetings can be really helpful. The third one is to help each employee to have one-on-one interactions with clients. It's one thing to know a client, it's another thing to kind of build those relationships over time. And so whether that's part of your structure of saying, hey, when you get a client, you need to have at least one phone call before you start doing their taxes or their work. Encouraging those one-on-one interactions can be really helpful to build those relationships and help people to see that their work has consequence. And it also helps them to know, kind of who the client has worked with in the past, so that you as a new seasonal employee can know who I can turn to that's had this client's work, and that I know what kind of relationship they had with the client. And then the last one is just this idea of providing statistics and information on the role each employee plays. One of the easiest examples of this for your work is, and Jeff mentioned this earlier, is that there's probably a good portion of your either total kind of total money made, or the bottom line, or total amount of work that comes into play when you hire seasonal employees. Imagine how meaningful it would be if all seasonal employees knew what was happening, the proportion of work that happened, the proportion of revenue that happened while they were a part of the company. All of a sudden I see that my work plays a part in the bigger picture. My work plays a part in the end goal of the organization. It's not just some small thing, right? It's a big part of what's happening. And so providing statistics and information on the role that each employee plays is a powerful way to help people see their personal consequence and the work that they're doing.